One of the things I love about the Torah is all of the wisdom that can be found in the written pages. But thankfully for us, there's even deeper meaning in the oral tradition. It's like having the backstory behind the story. And in this week's Parsha, we're going to delve into the backstory of a very famous story to find out a few things you may not have known about our matriarchs Rachel and Leah. By now, we're starting to see a few patterns emerge. One is that the Torah is pointing out the modesty of the women that it speaks about. And two, like Rivka, Rachel and Leah share something in common. You see, Rivka came from a family full of Rashaim, and yet she was able to withstand becoming like them. Well, Rachel and Leah also had this problem with their father Lavan. The Midrash records Lavan as Lavan ha'Arami, not just because he came from Arami, but because he was known as the father of lies, a trickster of sorts. In this day and age, you probably would call him a used car salesman. Can you imagine what it would be like with such a father? And yet both these women managed to withstand becoming like him. But imagine the busha of it all, the shame of it all. One would think that they'd probably hide in a cave if they had such a family member. But because Lavan was such a good trickster, he managed to convince everyone around him, including himself, that what he did and what he was doing was mitzvah. Certainly in this day and age, we can find plenty of people like this. They go against the Torah and they say mitzvah, it's a mitzvah. They've convinced themselves that what they're doing, even though it's wrong, is right and there's a purpose, that there's always some kind of justification. And this is Lavan. In fact, we often hear the story of Lavan tricking Yaakov when he switches Rachel for Leah. But what few people know is that Lavan had the whole town in on the switch. You see, when Yaakov came to the town, the waters became blessed. And so Lavan, thinking that he can get Yaakov to work for him some more, figured he'd do a switch by convincing the town people that if we trick Yaakov, then he will work 7 more years and our waters will be blessed. I mean, he actually called a full town meeting. And before you think, well, wait, what's so bad about wanting the waters to be blessed? See, even he's got you fooled. But here's the problem. Lavan convinces the whole town to be in on this secret. And so he tells them, how do I know that you will keep this secret? And so he requires that each member of the town pay a fee to Lavan. Lavan promises them that when the marriage is over, he will return the money, but instead he uses the money to throw the great banquet, and then further convinces himself that because I used their money to throw this banquet, they're dining at my daughter's wedding, but the truth is the people are paying for their own meals. Pretty clever, huh? Well, knowing her father's past history, Rachel warns Yaakov that she believes her father will try to switch the two of them. So they devise a plan, and this is when Yaakov gives to Rachel the 3 signs. Now that everything's in place, what could possibly go wrong? Except Rachel hears the town people speaking, and what they are saying and whispering is that this will be the wedding of Yaakov and Leah. Now, Leah is described as someone who has soft eyes, and many commentators go back and forth about what that means. But let's really look at this for a second. Leah was known for crying out to HaShem greatly, and in fact, her crying out on many occasions, she was able to switch her predicament to good, something that her daughter Dinah would also have. But we'll get to that at another time. Now, can you imagine Rachel is listening to what the people are saying, and suddenly she realizes that her sister will be greatly embarrassed. But what's a girl to do? I mean, this is the love of your life, Yaakov. So Rachel does the one thing that she can do, and she gives the signs to Leah in order that she should avoid being embarrassed. Now remember I told you that the Torah always speaks about a woman's modesty? Well, you may be saying, yeah, but where's the modesty in this story? And modesty isn't just about how you're dressing, but it's also about how you're behaving. And the Gemara points out that Rachel's modesty merited her something very great. But what was that modesty? And the modesty was her silence. She didn't make a scene, she didn't protest, she didn't make a spectacle of herself. And in the same way, you can say that Yaakov could have blamed Rachel for tricking him as well. After all, he could have said, "You're just like your father," but he didn't. They both understood that what was happening was coming from HaShem, and so they both let it play out. And of course, you know the rest of this story. But what was the reward for Rachel's modesty, for her tzniut? And we talked about before how there is this connection to modesty being a prerequisite for royalty. And in fact, we do see that. And Rachel's reward was that one of her descendants would be Avimelech, the first king of Israel. You can follow this series, A Woman's Worth by Devorah Esther, on YouTube at Gimel Dalet 777. Click subscribe to be notified. If you've enjoyed this video or know someone who would, please share it. Siku limitzvot.